Satoru Gojo is the main character of Jujutsu Kaisen, kinda. The story of Jujutsu Kaisen centers around Yuji Itadori. However, a lot of fans of the series don't consider him the main character. If I'm being honest, I can't blame them. I don't agree with it, but I get it. When you have characters like Sukuna, Toji, and Gojo, it's hard to put Yuji up on their level. In this video, I want to talk about why Satoru Gojo is not only the most important character in Jujutsu Kaisen, but also the most misunderstood. I'm going to break down his backstory chronologically and explore how it led to his philosophies and overall purpose for being a Jujutsu sorcerer. After watching this video, you should have a complete understanding of Gojo's character in terms of mentality and actions that he takes. Without further ado, let's just get right into it.
Man, honestly, I'm actually shocked.
Oh really? Here come the excuses.
Not at all, Baldy. I'm saying I'm actually shocked you would ever have thought you could beat me with this loser shit.
Satoru Gojo was born on December 7, 1989.
Damn!
Being the first person in about 400 years to inherit both the Limitless technique and 6 eyes, it's said that Gojo's birth shifted the balance of the world. Gojo was basically the LeBron of the sorcerer world, destined for greatness at a young age. They were literally putting bounties out on a 4-foot tall child. Off the top of my head, I can't even think of another character who had ops like this as a kid. Just being a kid though, this goes to show just how strong and feared Gojo was. He had grown men shaking in their boots just by looking at them. At one point, even Toji, after hearing about Gojo being born with both inherited techniques, went to see for himself what all the hype was about. Gojo, being the first person ever to sense Toji's presence, did indeed live up to the hype. Toji made him his top op for life after this one encounter with Kid Gojo. Toji even went as far as sacrificing his own life for a chance to take down Gojo. This is an important point in Gojo's life because when we're young, it's said that that's when our self-identity is conceived. Self-identity is a major theme that Gege uses Gojo's character to explore. Self-identity is defined as the recognition of one's potential and qualities as an individual, especially in relation to social context. From a young age, it was made clear to Gojo the difference in strength between him and everyone else around him. Every encounter he had with others from a young age served as a reminder that he was at the top of the ladder in terms of strength in the Jujutsu world. This is how we get the Gojo we meet in the beginning of the Hidden Inventory arc. This version of young Gojo is cocky because no one he's met in his entire life was even close to his strength. Not only is he cocky, but he's narcissistic.
Moral arguments? I hate moral arguments. What? Assigning reasons and responsibility to strength is what those who are weak tend to do.
When you hear him speak, it makes you wonder what even made him become a Jujutsu sorcerer in the first place. It's never explicitly stated, however we do get somewhat of an idea as to why later on. When we first meet adolescent Gojo, he's sent on a mission to check on Meimei and Urahime, who are already out on a mission. Gojo arrives with Geto and Shoko, and the group rescues the two and exorcises the curse. However, Gojo failed to put up a curtain to preserve secrecy from non-Jujutsu society. Principal Yaga scolds Gojo for this, and afterward he discusses it with Geto. This is where we learn that Gojo thinks using strength to protect the weak is useless. Keeping his upbringing in mind, this narcissistic view of the strong and the weak makes sense. It's said that narcissism can stem from a child's environment and whether it consists of too much admiration or too much criticism. It's obvious in Gojo's case it was the former. From birth, Gojo was greatly admired, however at the same time he was antagonized by people who were weaker than him. This is what causes his superiority complex and his lack of empathy for the weak. Gojo's strength led to both admiration and hatred from others, and this over time created a disconnect between him and everyone around him. That is until he's assigned to protect Riko. Right after expressing his feelings about using his strength to protect the weak, he's assigned on a mission to do exactly that. It's during this mission that Gojo learns the true value in using his strength to protect the weak. While protecting Riko from bounty hunters, Gojo begins to bond with her. This bond causes him to act out of character and do things like keep up his Limitless despite the fact that it's so draining for him. He even offers to let her stay one more day when he sees her get sad about having to fuse with Tengen. This moment is subtle, but it shows character growth from Gojo already in this arc. Gojo's previous view that assigning meaning to strength is already being challenged. When the group gets back to Jujutsu High, Gojo's #1 op pops back up. To be honest, I can't even say it's Gojo's op at this point. It was a one-sided beef Toji carried this whole time. Real hater energy if I do say so myself. I can't even lie, it's kinda inspiring. Anyway, Toji carries out a failed assassination attempt on Gojo after he's worn down from keeping his Limitless up to protect Riko. Geto leaves with Riko to Tengen's tomb and Gojo fights Toji. Okay, it wasn't really a fight at all. Gojo got bodied. This is another important moment for Gojo though, because it's his first close call with death. Before this, like I said, he was cocky because he was pretty much untouchable. His identity of being the strongest was challenged by many people before, and they all either failed miserably or were too scared to even test him. Toji was the first person to snatch his title as the strongest, ultimately stripping him of his entire identity. That is until Gojo goes completely feral. After surviving, thanks to learning reverse curse technique, Gojo experiences a euphoric feeling. Gojo's character draws a lot of comparisons with the Buddha and Buddhism as a whole, and this scene is a major reason why. In Buddhism, the idea of enlightenment is the ultimate goal. Becoming enlightened and reaching nirvana is the experience of true reality, an awakening through which one could comprehend the true nature of things. Gojo says in order to learn reverse curse technique, he had to grasp the true essence of curse energy. This is essentially his becoming enlightened, which is why he acts like he just took a hit of Walter White's finest meth. Gojo's enlightenment comes with fully becoming the strongest jujutsu sorcerer of his era and solidifying his self-identity. However, as we see later, he's still missing a piece of it. Gojo defeats Toji with his purple sparkles technique and goes inside to retrieve Riko's body. He meets with Geto on the inside and asks if he should kill the people there, to which Geto tells him no, there would be no reason. After Gojo's high from earlier wears off, he begins to realize his strength isn't everything after all. Being the strongest was enough to protect himself, but not those around him, and it affected him mentally. We cut to a year later and we see the entire situation caused Gojo to train harder and smarter than ever, something he probably never did before. The situation also affected Geto and made him completely flip sides and turn on Jujutsu Society. Geto, being the one person who knows Gojo the best, questions Gojo's self-identity with this line.
Do you think you're the strongest because you're Satoru Gojo? Or are you Satoru Gojo because you're the strongest?
He knows Gojo takes too much pride in being the strongest and lets it define him instead of using it to impact the world in some way. Geto challenges Gojo by saying if he truly wants to kill him, then do it, as there will be a point to that. He's basically telling Gojo that if he knows Geto is going to continue killing non-jujutsu sorcerers, then he can stop that right then and there with his strength by killing him. Gojo hesitates and still can't bring himself to do it. After everything with Geto, Gojo meets with Toji's son Megumi, who he decides to take in and raise. This is a full circle moment of character development for Gojo, going from not caring about the weak to using his strength to teach and raise a young Megumi. And this is where we meet him in the beginning of the show. He's still just as cocky as we see when he beats Sukuna in the most disrespectful way possible. However, by this point, Gojo has become a teacher at Jujutsu High with the main goal of raising the next generation of sorcerers to be strong and able to reset the Jujutsu world. Gojo witnessed firsthand already how the world of Jujutsu sorcery can taint people who were once pure and innocent. He sees insane amounts of potential in his students, Yuji in particular, who has already proven that despite being thrown so quickly into the world of Jujutsu sorcery, he's willing to give it his all to protect others. This is one of Gojo's main disconnects with the elders. They don't see what he sees in Yuji, who is someone who can do something great for the world by completely getting rid of Sukuna's fingers for good. Instead, they felt like after eating only 2 fingers, he should be executed. The first years get assigned their first mission investigating a special grade curse, and Yuji ends up dying, which raises a red flag in Gojo's eyes. He knows the elders purposely sent him on that mission with the intentions of him dying as a way of getting around Gojo's protection. Gojo explains that he can't just kill the elders because then someone else would just take the place of power and the cycle would continue. Also, the people wouldn't approve of a massacre of the elders, so the only way to bring a change is by cultivating the next generation of sorcerers. This is what we see Gojo do throughout season 1 of the anime. We see him help Yuji develop as a sorcerer, and we even see glimpses of lessons he had with Megumi. Throughout season 1 and 2, we learn a lot about Gojo's mentality and philosophy. However, it's not until later that we fully get to understand Gojo's character. During the Shibuya incident, Gojo is sealed by who we later discovered to be Kenjaku in Geto's body. This whole situation is ironic because Gojo's strength always caused him problems when it came to relating and building connections with others, and ultimately it was the reason he was sealed away from everyone else in the prison realm. The idea of solidarity and strength is a major theme of Gojo's character. Quick heads up, from this point forward, I'm going to be discussing manga spoilers, so if you don't want to be spoiled, then this is your warning. I'll be discussing spoilers up until the current chapter of the manga, which at the time of releasing this video is like chapter 260. With that being said, Gojo's strength and the loneliness associated with it is heavily explored in the hidden inventory arc. However, it's explored further in his fight with Sukuna. Gojo, after being unsealed, goes to run his fade with Sukuna. This fight is one of the most significant in the entire story up until this point. The strongest sorcerer sorcerer of today versus the strongest sorcerer of all time. This is a fight that has been hinted at since the very beginning of the show. The major theme of the fight being that Gojo and Sukuna are the closest to understanding the way it feels to be on a completely different level above everyone else in terms of strength. Because of this, both seem to enjoy the fight rather than taking it too seriously. Rarely do they both get a chance to utilize their powers to such an extent. The main difference between the two, however, is their philosophy on what their strength means. Gojo saw his strength as a sort of barrier between him and others. The way he described it is being able to admire a blooming flower, however not being able to ask the flower to understand you. He knows his strength is admired by other people, but he can't begin to relate or understand them, which goes back to his reason for being a sorcerer in the first place. He wanted to train the next generation in hopes they could reach his level of strength one day and ultimately relate to him. Not only would this solve his problem of loneliness, but he thought maybe they could do something good for the world with that strength, which is something he felt like he could never do. In Gojo's eyes, he never fulfilled a purpose with his strength. He couldn't save his best friend Geto, and even in his fight with Sukuna, he couldn't match up to his strength. He felt as though he failed Sukuna because he didn't get him to go all out. In his dream sequence before his death, Nanami and Highbrow tell him they all saw that he was only in sorcery for the fun of it, not to protect others or to keep sorcery going. They say he proved that to be true in his final battle with Sukuna. While I do think that was just their perspective, there is a little truth to it. For example, I think Gojo did care for Riko, but as we saw when she died and he was enlightened, he didn't feel bad about it at the time. Instead, he was focused on his newfound power and the battle in front of him. This ties back to what I said earlier about self-identity being a major theme for Gojo's character. In his eyes, his entire self-identity revolved around being the strongest, so all of his motives and actions were based around finding uses for his strength. When he was younger, he didn't care much about assigning a reason to his strength, but as he got older and experienced life, he learned the importance of actually finding a purpose for his strength that could be beneficial for others as well. Because of this, he became a teacher at Jujutsu High with the hopes of raising students of the next generation to his level. This is why I say Gojo is one of the most important characters, if not the most important character in Jujutsu Kaisen. His character covers major themes that we see covered in both the protagonist and antagonist. Yuji is another character who struggles with self-identity, trying to do good in the world, but at the same time being the host of the King of Curses, and Sukuna, who relates to the themes of strength and isolation. Speaking of Sukuna, check out this breakdown I did on him right here. I love you, and I'm out. Peace.